Is your practice effective? Let's talk about that for a minute.
Mountain Man Medical has name brand proven trauma medical supplies with a price match guarantee to ensure you get the right gear at the right price. Check them out at get-asp.com/mountainman.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to Active Self Protection Extra. I am Christopher Bean with Tactical Advantage, and today I'd like to talk through practice a little bit. So, this is going to be different than what I'm normally doing with actually showing you drills or showing you how I practice. And I just want to talk through practice conceptually for a little bit. So, maybe not the most exciting thing you've ever seen, but I think it's important. So, what do we hear most often? We talk about like burnout, things like that, and I think a bunch of that is driven by practice that does not really yield the desired result. And I think there's a couple reasons for that. So it gave me the idea of to kind of talk through this a little bit, and hopefully it will bring some benefit and help you create your own practice regimens that will actually yield quantifiable results for you. So, first and foremost, I think what happens a lot that creates issues is practice is done as a task and has no direct goal in mind or any approach that will actually bring the person closer to where they want to go. So that's the first thing I'd like to kind of think through is goal setting and understanding what practice really is. So practice, in a generalized sense, is the repetitive performance of a task with refinement in mind to increase proficiency. And I think what happens a lot of times is we just use it as repetition's sake. So we're not exploring or refining our ability to perform the task. We're simply performing the task. So without that exploration, without the willingness to make changes, we're just simply doing the same thing over and over again, not really honing our ability to do that thing better. Now, in a perfect world, if you had perfect form in relation to a task, that would prove beneficial. But more often than not, what we do is we have a rudimentary sense of what we're practicing, and we keep practicing it that same way. So, what that does is it creates a limiting nature in practice. And I think what happens with that is where you'll hear the things like, oh, my dry fire is a grind. I've got to go grind. I've got to go grind to get this practice session in because you're really just doing the same thing over and over again without the excitement of exploration, without the idea of forward progression, things like that. Where if you input that, there's a higher likelihood of engagement in relation to the practice session. So, really, I go in with a specific goal on something I want to work on. We could frame it simply as draw to first shot. So, when I go in and I'm working on draw to first shot, I don't just simply go in and say, hey, I want to perform a draw to first shot in 1 second or less. Because I don't really think that gets me where I need to go. I'll go in with significantly more detail. I would like to practice draw to first shot with the quantifier of a percentage or 80, 90% of the time catching my dot during the presentation at this specific place. So there's something for me to focus on in that practice session that will yield something different than what I was doing before. So when we do something like that, and it could be framed however you want, but it creates a permissive environment where I can try new things or do something different to experience if there's any change in my ability to perform said task. Now, I know this seems heady, but it's also important. how we frame those things and what we seek in our practice sessions are what will change us as practitioners versus just, timer beep, 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 beep over and over and over again. Because really what you're doing is just repeating the same thing you've always done. And that doesn't lend itself to mastery. So one thing that I say a lot to people as they're coming up is let's use like musicianship as an example. The ability of someone to read music off a paper and perform that note for note shows a certain level of technical ability, but the ability to improvise over that same piece of music in meter and scope is really, to me, what depicts mastery. And I think really it would benefit a lot of us to kind of really think through that. Not just the ability to draw to first shot, but what is actually happening within a draw to first shot that I could do better versus just making it within a point of time or between beeps, things like that. Because what that inevitably does is create technical flaws in the presentation where instead of owning it and saying, I can either input, correct, attempt to mitigate technical flaws within that presentation will help me better understand how to utilize these tools in more applications. So that's kind of the first thing. I plan on doing a couple videos like this and at least try and get some of my ideas out there on what practice really means and how you can make your practice yield more. Because there's just a ton of thought that could be put into how you're doing things that will create significantly more forward momentum than just doing the thing. So hopefully this is something that makes sense for everybody, and we can talk through this. So that's my first real thought of this video series would be going with a goal. What is it you are trying to accomplish with that practice session? And take the time and thought necessary to articulate what that is. That could be as simple as I would like to work on hand speed, and these are the things I will do to do that. I would like to work on my trigger press or my acquisition of the dot in conjunction with performance of this task. And that will change it from the simple redundancy of doing repetitive behavior over and over and over again and turn it into something else. That creates kind of self introspection, self analysis that normally will yield. And it's a ton more fun, guys, a ton more fun. So, again, I hope this isn't too kind of woo wooey for you guys. But I do think it's important, and I really want to see people get better. And I know what's brought me benefit over the course of time, and a lot of it has really sat down and critically thought about what I'm trying to accomplish and what that goal is. So, with that, I will see you guys next time, and we'll talk through a couple more aspects of practice that you can immediately put into play to hopefully improve how quickly you're progressing. So, see you guys next time. Appreciate it.